Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this particular video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 13 of the anime series Toaru Hikuushi no Koiuta. For all intents and purposes, the season finale of this particular series, and boy do we come full circle by the end. And it's very interesting because there are some overarching hints, as this is, the end of this particular season. There are still some overarching hints that maybe we could see picked up again in a second season at some point. Now, as of the time of this recording, I don't know if we're going to be getting one, but I would really hope so, because there is, of course, one overarching aspect that has yet to be concluded with this story, and it kind of leaves off with that hanging. And I think there are other small hints that I'll be discussing as I talk about this episode. But the primary factor is Kal-El, Ariel, their surviving friends are all returning home. I love that we catch up again with his adopted father and sisters. They're on their way to this grand spectacle, meeting all the people, and the entire area are trying to welcome the people making a return at this point. And they want to hear stories of did they get to the end of the sky? Did they fight the Sky Clan? And of course you have the sort of main head guy talking to the crowds and telling them of all the adventures and misadventures and the lives, lost and everything like that. But what is really surprising is at this point, Kal-El comes out. He's introduced as Karl Lahir, this former prince of this former empire. And at first people are kind of put off by that, like, hey, wait a minute, that kid's supposed to be dead. He's an imposter if this guy's claiming to be that. And then they start to put two and two together as Karl is addressing the entire situation. He has fallen in love with Nina Viento. Claire Cruz, I'm assuming the greater populace is not aware of her dual identity, but he is professing his love for her. He's saying that he learned through his time spent on Isla, learning to become a pilot, having these friends, having these caregivers and teachers all around him doing the best they could for him. Essentially he learned forgiveness. That one thing, his mother, before she was just taken away from him to die, to be put to death, begged and pleaded with him to realize that forgiveness is a stronger virtue than vengeance, and that's something he finally embraced through his tumultuous times and relationships between the one he has with Claire, the one he has with Ignacio, and all of that stuff. So we've seen that this character has really, truly grown at this point, and he wants to begin a new mission. He wants to begin a new Isla mission, one that means, saving Claire. Now, what's very fascinating about this is you basically have little aspects like the teachers. The teachers are now non-military, and they're going to be opening their own school, and I love that. I love that, there are still going to be students taught to fly, to become pilots by these two experts who went and risked life and limb to save their own students. We can see how much they care. They are unlike the government. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we go back to that, General, whatever rank he is, Mel's, when introduced to Kal-El as being Karl Lahir, he's completely mind blown by that. But before this, he says something in sort of a high governmental meeting, looking at what they've learned by reaching the end of the sky, and we get to see this great look of the entirety of their world. It's almost like one giant floating continent in and of itself. It's very fascinating, the design of it. We finally get to see what it looks like from sort of a bird's eye view. But he says something about how the government tried to get rid of them, and I wonder if this goes back to something that was at the very beginning, this whole idea of class warfare, the wealthy versus the poor and everything like that. I mean, going all the way back to the Empire 10 years ago or whatever it's been, Kal-El or Karl's family was put to death. Their empire was basically destroyed. We're talking about the same kind of problems. Even though this is a democracy now, there are still poor and the refuse, the masses that aren't wealthy and everything like that. It seems like the greater majority of the kids, sent to the pilot school and the soldiers and everything were people who were of lesser value, perhaps, to the government. So it's very interesting that there's a commentary there. And of course we see that the main focus they want to, basically have their eyes on is keeping peace between the Balsteros and Lavam empires respectively, to be able to continue this mission of seeking out the mysteries of their world and working together and in unison. And one of the biggest glaring things is the dorm manager Shizuka. She's always been just in the background. She's not even in every single episode that I can recall. And essentially, she's taking that final photograph of all the kids that have returned. They're celebrating their graduation with their teachers. But then she departs from this little gathering, and she's out in the woods, and someone walks up to her. We don't see who it is. We only see like an army suit and boots. And she says something about contacting the mother country, because if there's going to be a new Isla mission, meaning the mission Carl wants to go on to save Claire Nina Viento, they're going to have to intervene. What the hell does that mean? Who is she all of a sudden, you know? Is she working with the Sky Clan side of things? Is there another, you know, sort of country that's coming into play that we haven't even heard of at this point? Perhaps she's even part of the Lavam Empire, and, you know, she's one of the higher-ups in that empire overseeing things and wanting to keep that sense of camaraderie between the Lavam and Ballesteros empires, respectively. It's very intriguing to me, that little comment, because it's all kinds of question marks going off in my head. Is this an ominous tiding? Is this a positive tiding? Because, of course, Kal-El is sent off to go rescue Nina Viento, his love, Claire Cruz. We see that, once again, a Lavam airship does fly into the battle and help save him from oncoming attacks from the Sky Clan. So I'd be surprised if she was there as a villainous character. But another couple aspects of this episode that really kind of surprised me was how far they went with Ariel now seeming to have a love, a romantic love, for her adopted brother, of course, Carl. He has grown into a young man at this point. He's not the whiny little kid he used to be, and she just breaks down in tears when sending him away. You know, we see that just prior to that, of course, the family get-together that they have. The whole family's asleep on this one giant cot or whatever it is, or rug on the floor, and she's awake, and she's just staring at his face, and she caresses his face, and she realizes, and she even says, she puts it into words, this is really weird how I'm feeling. All of a sudden, she's falling in love with him. And it's almost tragic because, they're not related. It's one of those situations where they've grown up together, but they hated each other all their lives, and now all of a sudden she's seeing something beyond what she always saw. But she has to keep a lid on it. She's going to fight that side of herself and just remain the dutiful sister. But it could make for some dramatic stories if they pick up with a second season. And, she's hearing that maybe Kal-El won't be coming home, or maybe he will be, but he'll be bringing Claire successfully with him. And that, of course, brings me back to the one overarching, glaring, yet-to-be-concluded aspect, that Kal-El's mission to go save Claire is only just beginning as we end this series, with the support of the people, as per his, talking to them in front of the crowd. And it's intriguing to me because, of course, as he's flying this new one-seater fighter airplane that he's been given, he actually gets to hear a message from Claire, and he assures her that he's coming and one day they will share the skies together. It ends with an affirmation that yes, this is the new mission, they're going to go save her, and all of these other little aspects. When we see Chiharu has visited Midi's parents and is basically giving her condolences for the loss of their son, they all embrace. It was just a really touching moment, and overall I have to say I really enjoyed the hell out of this series. It really had a Final Fantasy-esque feel to it and presence to it, with the character interactions, the character styles, the way they looked. I loved the animation, I loved the aerial battles, and I loved the very unexpected, sort of twists and turns of the story. A couple of those aspects, the plot revelations, along the way I thought maybe could have been better handled in different places, but it still all adds up for the same basic overview, which is this was a really strong and cool and interesting series, and I would love to be able to pick up with the characters again at some point in the future. So, yeah, otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I enjoyed the hell out of this series, Toaru Hikuushi no Koiuta. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below, whether you did as well, and that'll be it from me. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.